My dog blocked the door, growling like never before. Irritated, I stayed home. An hour later, my boss called, sobbing. Everyone who came in is dead. How? I whispered. They all looked like... My husky Max lunged at my briefcase at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, clamped his jaws around the leather handle, and ripped it clean off with a violence I didn't know he possessed. He'd never been aggressive. Not once in the 5 years I'd had him. Max was the kind of dog that let toddlers climb on him at the dog park, who'd roll over for belly rubs from strangers who whimpered if you raised your voice even slightly. But that morning, standing between me and my bedroom door with his teeth bared and his ears flat against his skull, he looked like a different animal entirely. Max? What the hell? I grabbed for the briefcase, tried to pull it away from him. He yanked harder, shaking his head violently the way he did with rope toys, and the entire handle tore free. $300 worth of Italian leather destroyed. I had a presentation at 9:00 a.m. 6 months of work on a comprehensive rebranding campaign for Meridian Pharmaceuticals. Our biggest client, my boss, Robert Henderson, had made it crystal clear over the past week. This presentation would determine whether I got promoted to senior creative director or stayed stuck as an associate for another year. Make or break, Marcus, he'd said yesterday, tapping his pen against my desk. Don't let me down. I couldn't afford to be late. I definitely couldn't afford to miss it entirely. Move, I used my firm voice, the one that always worked when Max was being stubborn about coming inside from the backyard. He didn't move. Instead, he pressed himself wider against the door, his body a solid 70 lb barrier between me and the hallway. The growl that came from his throat was low, primal, nothing like the playful sounds he made during fetch. This was a warning. I grabbed my laptop bag from the chair, thinking I'd just shove everything into that instead. The moment I picked it up, Max lunged forward and snatched it from my hands. He shook it so hard my laptop went flying, hit the floor with a sickening crack. Are you insane? My voice came out louder than I meant. That's my work. I need that. My phone started ringing. Jake, my coworker, my best friend, since college orientation when we'd both gotten lost trying to find the economics building and ended up at a frat party instead. We'd been hired at Morrison Creative Agency the same week, suffered through the same soul-crushing training sessions, covered for each other through hangovers and family emergencies. And that time, Jake accidentally sent a client email to the entire company. Dude, where are you? Jake's voice had that edge it got when he was stressed. Henderson's already setting up the conference room. You know how he gets when my dog just went psycho. I'm not kidding, Jake. He destroyed my briefcase, my laptop bag. I can't get past him to even leave my bedroom. Jake laughed. It sounded tiny through the phone speaker. Your dog ate your homework? That's the best excuse you've got. I'm serious. He's blocking the door. He won't let me leave. I've never seen him like this. Man, you've got like 20 minutes before Henderson completely loses it. Client's supposed to arrive at 8:45. You need to... I know. Just tell him I'm coming. Give me 15 minutes. I hung up and turned to Max. He was sitting now, but still directly in front of the door. His ice blue eyes locked on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. I'd read somewhere that dogs could sense things humans couldn't. Storms, earthquakes, seizures. But this felt different. This felt deliberate. I tried a different approach. Went to the closet and pulled out an old backpack from grad school. Figured I'd just throw everything in there. The moment Max saw it, he exploded into motion, jumped up, grabbed the backpack strap in his teeth, and bolted into the bathroom with it. Max, I swear to God, that's when I noticed my work badge sitting on the kitchen counter where I'd left it the night before. Without it, I couldn't get past building security. Morrison Creative was in a high-rise downtown with strict protocols after some corporate espionage incident last year. No badge, no entry, no exceptions. I moved toward the counter. Max burst out of the bathroom like he'd been shot from a cannon, snatched the badge in his jaws, and disappeared back into the bathroom. I heard the plastic ID holder cracking between his teeth. I stood there in my best suit, the charcoal Tom Ford I'd bought specifically for this presentation, completely helpless, watching my career implode because my dog had apparently lost his mind. I'd adopted Max from a rescue shelter 5 years ago, right after my divorce from Caroline was finalized. The shelter volunteer had warned me that huskies were high energy, stubborn, prone to dramatic behavior. They're basically toddlers in dog bodies, she'd said, scratching Max behind his ears while he leaned into her hand. Already charming, but they're also incredibly loyal. Once they bond with you, they're yours forever. Max had been my constant companion through everything. Through the depression that followed the divorce, through the career changes I'd left teaching to pursue creative work, a decision my ex-wife had called a midlife crisis masquerading as ambition. Through the long hours building my portfolio, through the job applications and rejections, through finally landing at Morrison Creative 2 years ago, he came to work with me sometimes. The agency had a dog-friendly policy on Fridays. He'd sleep under my desk, occasionally wandering the office to collect pets and treats from coworkers who kept a stash of dog biscuits in their desk drawers. Everyone loved Max. Jake called him the office therapist because he had this way of sensing when someone was having a bad day and would just go sit next to them until they felt better. He'd never shown aggression, not toward me, not toward strangers, not toward other dogs. The worst thing he'd ever done was knock over my coffee mug with his tail when when he got excited about going for a walk. So this snarling, briefcase-destroying, badge-stealing behavior was completely alien. I looked at my phone. 7:34 a.m. The presentation started at 9 brine. I needed to leave now if I wanted to beat downtown traffic, get set up in the conference room, run through my slides one last time. But Max was still guarding that bathroom like it contained the crown jewels. I had no choice. I called Henderson. Robert, I'm really sorry, but I can't make it in. I'm sick. Food poisoning. I think it hit me hard this morning. The lie tasted bitter. I'd never called in sick for something important before. Never missed a deadline. Never bailed on a client meeting. Henderson's sigh came through the phone like a punctured tire. Marcus, this is really bad timing. The Meridian people are already in the car. I've got the entire executive team clearing their schedules for this. I know. I'm so sorry. I can't. At least that part was true. We'll have to reschedule. I'll tell them you have the flu or something. Try to push it to next week. His voice was tight with the kind of controlled anger that was somehow worse than yelling. Get better. Rest up. He hung up without saying goodbye. I stood there in my suit, my destroyed briefcase on the floor, my laptop probably cracked beyond repair, my work badge currently being used as a chew toy by my insane dog. I just torpedoed 6 months of work, possibly my entire career trajectory, because I couldn't physically leave my apartment. Max emerged from the bathroom, my badge still in his mouth, but no longer chewing on it. He walked over to me, dropped the badge at my feet, surprisingly gently, and then just sat there staring at me with those unsettling blue eyes. Are you happy now? I asked him. Are you satisfied? He didn't wag his tail, didn't pant or lick my hand or do any of the normal dog things, just sat watching, waiting. I picked up the badge. The plastic was cracked, but still intact. My photo and name visible through the teeth marks. I tossed it onto the couch and started peeling off my suit jacket. If I wasn't going to work, there was no point in wearing $600 worth of tailored wool. My phone rang again. 8:47 a.m. Henderson's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. Figured he was calling to officially fire me, but something made me pick up. Don't come in. His voice was barely above a whisper, shaking so badly I almost couldn't understand him. Marcus, don't come in. Don't come anywhere near the building. My stomach dropped. What? Why? What happened? He couldn't finish the sentence. I heard him making sounds that might have been breathing or might have been sobbing. There's been an incident. What kind of incident? Robert, what's going on? A gas leak from the overnight construction on the 3rd floor. They were installing new ventilation systems. Something went wrong. The maintenance crew found another broken sound. Marcus, everyone who came to the morning meeting is dead. The world tilted. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. What? Jake, Sarah, Tom, Rebecca, everyone from Creative, the Meridian clients, 17 people total, carbon monoxide from a faulty connection in the ventilation line. They think it started leaking around 6 Marn this morning before anyone arrived. By the time people started feeling symptoms during the meeting, it was too late. They said it looked like everyone just fell asleep, but they didn't wake up. The phone slipped from my hand, clattered onto the floor. I looked at Max. He was still sitting in the doorway, perfectly still. Those ice blue eyes fixed on me like he'd known all along exactly what he was doing. I didn't move for a long time. Couldn't process what Henderson had said. 17 people dead. Jake dead because of a gas leak I would have walked directly into if Max hadn't physically prevented me from leaving. My phone buzzed with incoming texts. I picked it up with shaking hands. Sarah's girlfriend. Have you heard from Sarah? She's not answering her phone. Tom's wife. Tom didn't come home for lunch. Do you know what's happening at the office? Jake's mom. Marcus, please call me. The police just came to my house. They won't tell me anything except there was an accident. Is Jake okay? Please tell me my son is okay. I couldn't answer any of them. Couldn't form words. Max walked over and put his head on my knee, not demanding attention, not playful, just present, solid, real. I put my hand on his head, felt the soft fur, the warmth. How did you know? I whispered. How the hell did you know? The news broke on television about an hour later. I sat on my couch watching the live coverage. Max pressed against my leg as reporters stood outside Morrison Creative's building, talking about the tragic workplace accident and ongoing investigation into safety protocol violations. The names started coming out around noon. Jake Montgomery, 29, creative associate. Sarah Chen, 31, senior copywriter. Tom Reeves, 44, art director. Rebecca Foster, 38, account manager. Jake's face appeared on the screen. His LinkedIn photo, the one where he was wearing that ridiculous bow tie he'd thought made him look sophisticated and approachable. I'd taken that photo for him in the office break room, made him pose 17 different ways until we got one he liked. My phone rang. Henderson again. Marcus. His voice sounded like it had aged 20 years. I just wanted to check on you, make sure you knew. The police might contact you for a statement since you were scheduled to be there. How are you alive? I asked. The question came out harsher than I meant. I was in my office making copies of the presentation materials. Different ventilation system. By the time I came down the hall, people were all ready. I tried to help, tried to wake them up, but they were all just... He broke off. The paramedic said if I'd been in that conference room 5 minutes longer, I'd be dead too. Jesus, why weren't you there, Marcus? And I want the real reason, not food poisoning. I looked at Max. My dog wouldn't let me leave my apartment. I know how that sounds, but he blocked the door, destroyed everything I needed to get to work. I thought thought he'd gone crazy. Silence on the other end. Then dogs can smell carbon monoxide. Did you know that? I just learned it from one of the paramedics. They use detection dogs for gas leaks sometimes. Their sense of smell is so sensitive they can detect it in concentrations humans can't even measure. Our building's ventilation system, I said slowly, understanding. It's connected to the whole complex. My apartment is in the same building as the office, just different floors. Your dog smelled it through the vents. Henderson said he knew. Somehow he knew that if you left your apartment and went to the office, you'd die. Detective Maria Santos came to my apartment that evening. She was in her mid-40s, wearing a blazer that had seen better days, carrying a notebook with pages bent at the corners. 15 years in homicide, now doing workplace fatality investigations. She introduced herself. I need to ask you about this morning. I told her everything. The destroyed briefcase, the stolen badge, Max's unusual aggression, how I'd called in sick because I physically couldn't leave. She wrote it all down, her expression neutral. And you've never experienced this behavior from your dog before? Never. He's the gentlest dog I've ever known. Mr. Chen, I'm going to be honest with you. This case is strange. The carbon monoxide leak was from a construction error. Someone connected the ventilation lines incorrectly during overnight work. But the timing is what bothers me. The leak started at approximately 5:47 a.m. Your first interaction with your dog exhibiting unusual behavior was at 6:47 a.m. According to your phone records showing when you called your coworker, that's exactly 1 hour after the leak began. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm saying your dog detected something an hour after it started before it reached concentrations that would register on standard carbon monoxide detectors. We checked your apartment. You don't have a CO detector, by the way. You should really install one. But even if you did, it wouldn't have alarmed yet. The levels in your apartment at that time were elevated, but not immediately dangerous. But your dog knew. He sensed something was wrong before any human or device would have detected it. She looked at Max, who was lying on his bed in the corner watching us. Dogs have about 220 million olfactory receptors. Humans have about 5 million. There are documented cases of dogs detecting gas leaks, alerting their owners to carbon monoxide poisoning, even sensing seizures or diabetic emergencies before they happen. But this is the first time I've seen a dog prevent someone from walking into a lethal exposure. So, he saved my life. He absolutely saved your life. If you'd gone to that office, you'd be dead. The forensic team said everyone in that conference room died between 8:52 and 9:04 a.m. You would have arrived right in that window. My hands started shaking. I clasped them together to make it stop. I know this is difficult, Detective Santos said, not unkindly, but I need you to understand how serious this is. The construction company, Hartwell & Sons, they're facing negligent homicide charges, 17 counts. The project manager who approved the faulty connection is going to prison. But we also need to understand how this happened, how the leak went undetected for so long. What about building management? Don't they have safety protocols? They do, and they failed. The overnight security guard was supposed to do a walk through every 2 hours. He didn't. He was watching Netflix in the security office. We have the footage. He's been fired and is facing charges as well. She closed her notebook. The building's management company is going to be sued into oblivion. Morrison Creative is already preparing a massive wrongful death lawsuit. She stood to leave, then paused. Mr. Chen, one more thing. The ventilation system in your apartment is connected to the same main system as the office. The levels in your apartment were high enough that if you'd stayed home all day, you might have gotten sick. Maybe severely sick, but probably not fatal. But the office conference room was directly above where the faulty connection was made. The concentration there was immediately lethal. After she left, I sat on the floor next to Max's bed. He lifted his head, and I scratched behind his ears the way he liked. You knew, I whispered. You smelled it in our apartment, and you knew if I went to work, I'd walk right into the worst of it. He licked my hand once, then put his head back down. Jake's funeral was on Saturday. His mother, Patricia Montgomery, was a woman I'd met dozens of times over the years. At Jake's birthday parties, at his graduation, once at Christmas when I didn't have anywhere else to go, and Jake insisted I come home with him. She'd always treated me like a second son. She looked hollow at the funeral, empty. Her husband held her up during the service, but I could see her legs shaking. I almost didn't approach her afterward. What do you say to someone whose child is dead, especially when you should have been dead too? When the only reason you're alive is a twist of fate and an intuitive dog. But she found me first, grabbed my hand after the graveside service, her grip surprisingly strong. I heard about your dog, she said. Her voice was rough, scraped raw from crying. Jake's girlfriend told me about how Max wouldn't let you leave. Mrs. Montgomery, I'm so sorry. I should have been there. If I'd been there, maybe I could have stopped. She squeezed my hand harder. Don't you dare feel guilty for being alive. Jake would have hated that. You know what he would have said? He would have said this was the most Jake thing ever. His best friend missing death because of a crazy dog story. She pulled me into a hug and I felt her shaking. You're alive, she whispered. That matters. That means something. Promise me you'll remember that. I promise. The investigation took 3 months. By the end, 15 people and 2 companies had been charged with various crimes, ranging from negligent homicide to criminal negligence to falsifying safety records. The construction project manager David Hartwell got 11 years in prison. The overnight overnight security guard, Marcus Webb, which made every news article weird to read given my name, got 3 years. The building management company, Prestige Property Group, was sued for $340 million by the victims' families and folded entirely. Morrison Creative never reopened. Henderson tried to salvage it, tried to move to a different location, but nobody wanted to work there anymore. The company was synonymous with death. He sold the client list to a competitor and retired early. I couldn't go back to creative work. Every time I tried to work on a campaign, tried to think about branding and messaging and target demographics, I'd see Jake's face, hear Sarah's laugh, remember Tom showing me photos of his kids, but I couldn't just do nothing. I'd been researching for 2 weeks when I found Dr. Rebecca Walsh, a veterinary behaviorist who'd published several papers on canine detection abilities. She worked at UC Davis, ran a program training service dogs for medical alert tasks. Dogs detecting gas leaks isn't new, she told me over Zoom, her office wall covered in photos of dogs in training vests. But what your dog did, that level of insistence, that understanding that the danger wasn't immediate, but would be if you left, that's remarkable. That's reasoning. That's communication. Can other dogs do this? Can they be trained to do this? Potentially. Dogs are already used for detecting explosives, drugs, accelerants, and arson investigations. Some are trained to detect certain cancers, to alert to oncoming seizures or diabetic emergencies. Gas leak detection is less common, but absolutely possible, especially in commercial settings where leaks could be catastrophic. What if I wanted to start a company training dogs specifically for gas detection in office buildings? She leaned forward, interested now. That would be innovative. Most commercial buildings rely on electronic detectors, but those have limitations. They can malfunction, run out of battery, get covered in dust. A trained dog, especially one that bonds with the building security team, could be a valuable additional layer of safety. Would you help me consult on the training protocols? I'd love to. K9. Guard Solutions launched 7 months after the Morrison Creative tragedy. I used most of my savings and a small business loan. Dr. Walsh helped design the training program. We started with rescue dogs. Most of them, like Max, were considered difficult or high energy or unsuitable for typical adoption. Turns out those traits made them perfect for detection work. Our first client was a tech startup in San Jose that had recently moved into an old building with questionable infrastructure. They hired us as much for the PR. Innovative company uses cutting-edge safety technology as for actual safety concerns. But then it happened. Zeus, a German shepherd we'd trained for 3 months, started alerting at 4:23 a.m. during a night security shift, barking at a specific wall panel, refusing to move. The security guard initially thought Zeus was malfunctioning. That's actually the term he used, like Zeus was a robot, but he called the emergency number we'd provided. We contacted the gas company. They sent a crew within an hour. They found a hairline fracture and a natural gas line inside the wall. Not leaking yet, but close. Another few days of pressure changes, of building temperature fluctuations, and it would have ruptured. The building had over 200 people working there daily. Zeus had prevented another Morrison Creative. After that, we couldn't train dogs fast enough. Companies lined up. Building management firms added us to their standard safety protocols. We expanded to Los Angeles, Seattle, Phoenix, Denver. Max came to every installation, every training session. Officially, he was our quality control specialist. Unofficially, he was our proof of concept, the dog that had started it all. 3 years after the incident, I got a call from Patricia Montgomery. "I wanted you to know," she said, "that we're using the settlement money from the lawsuit to start a foundation, the Jake Montgomery Workplace Safety Foundation. We're going to fund research into better detection systems, lobby for stricter safety regulations, provide support for families affected by workplace accidents." That's wonderful. Mrs. Montgomery and I wanted to ask if Canine Guard Solutions would be interested in partnering with us, maybe provide trained dogs to buildings that can't afford them otherwise. Schools, community centers, nonprofit offices. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Jake would have loved this, she said softly. He would have thought it was ridiculous and perfect that his death led to an army of safety dogs. You know, he always wanted a dog, but his apartment didn't allow them. I didn't know that. There were probably 1,000 things I didn't know about Jake. Would never get to learn now. We'll make sure his name is on every dog we donate. I told her every single one. Last month, we caught our 43rd gas leak before it became a catastrophe. A golden retriever named Luna alerted to a faulty connection in a hospital's maintenance area at 2:17 a.m. The hospital maintenance chief initially didn't believe it. The electronic sensors showed nothing wrong, but they checked anyway, found the leak, fixed it before the morning shift started, before hundreds of patients and staff could have been exposed. Luna's handler sent me a photo. She was wearing a vest that said Canine Guard Solutions, Jake Montgomery Memorial Program. I keep that photo on my office wall right next to the destroyed briefcase from that Tuesday morning 5 years ago. The leather is still torn, the teeth marks still visible, the handle completely separated from the bag. Sometimes clients ask about it. Why do you keep a destroyed briefcase? Because that's the briefcase my dog attacked to prevent me from going to work the day 17 people died from carbon monoxide poisoning. That's the briefcase that saved my life. They usually go quiet after that. Then they sign the contract. Max is 9 now. He's slower than he used to be, sleeps more, doesn't come to every installation anymore, but he's still the gentlest dog I've ever known. Still lets kids pull his tail at the park. Still whimpers if I raise my voice. But sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and find him sitting by my bedroom door, just sitting, watching, like he's still on guard, still protecting me from invisible threats I can't sense. It's okay, buddy. I'll tell him. We're safe. I'm safe. He'll wag his tail once, then come back to bed. I've learned to trust that instinct, that vigilance, because 5 years ago, my dog's bizarre, destructive behavior seemed like the worst possible thing that could happen to my career, my life, my future. Turns out, it was the greatest gift I could have received. Jake's mom was right. He would have thought this whole thing was ridiculous. The most Jake story ever, surviving death because your dog wouldn't let you leave for work. But I know what Jake would say if he could see K9 Guard Solutions now. See the 43 leaks we've caught. See the lives we've saved. See, man, I told you that you'd figure out what you were meant to do. Just took a crazy dog to show you. I keep that destroyed briefcase in my office as a reminder. Sometimes the biggest inconvenience is the greatest gift. Sometimes the thing that seems like disaster is actually salvation. Sometimes you should trust your dog when he refuses to let you walk toward death, even if it costs you everything you thought you wanted. And mostly, I keep it to remember that 17 people died so I could learn what my life was supposed to be about. That's not survivor's guilt. Dr. Walsh says I should stop calling it that. It's survivor's responsibility. They died. I didn't. Max made sure of that. So now I make sure other dogs can do for other people what Max did for me. That's what the briefcase means. That's what Max's teeth marks represent. It's not destruction. It's salvation. And every single day I'm grateful my dog knew something I didn't. That sometimes staying home saves your life. And sometimes the greatest act of love is preventing someone from walking toward death, even when they don't understand why. Always trust your dog. Always.